Hi, this is Michael Jai White. You're listening to Martial Arts World Radio with Joseph Clark.
Welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. I'm your host, Joseph Clark. Each episode, we speak to stars of the UFC, Bellator, Olympic martial arts medalists, cinema stars, and legends and icons of classical martial arts. This week's inspirational quote is from Theodore Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States, and it goes as follows. Do not hit at all if it is honorably possible to avoid hitting, but never hit softly. Theodore Roosevelt, 1858 to 1919. On Thursday of last week, I drove down to Atlantic City to the ultimate destination for MMA and Martial Arts Expo and Mega Weekend. This is also known as the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honors Mega Weekend. Let me tell you, we've been talking to Alan Goldberg over the past couple of months, who's the organizer of this event, and it is absolutely everything that we hoped it would be and more. Attended by thousands. Just the trade show floor alone was completely impressive, with all of the various vendors offering different styles, different services, fighting systems, products, videos, books. It was just, a mecca for martial artists. In addition to that, there were seminars, and there were competitions, and there were belt tests. There was an incredible banquet that I attended, and this banquet had to have at least 2,000 attendees. It was the largest banquet I've ever seen. Met some terrific people that were Michael DePasquale Jr.'s students from New York. Really great guys. And some well-deserved awards that were given out. Also, the event was attended by some amazing celebrities whom I had the opportunity to interview. And we're going to hear a couple of those interviews on this show. You're going to hear various interviews over the next season of episodes of Martial Arts World Radio. However, amongst the guests were Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, of course, who's known from Rising Sun and Mortal Kombat and several other films. Orlando Rivera, World Kickboxing Champion. Hank Garrett. Now, Hank Garrett is a professional wrestler. He's also a martial artist who studied under Benny the Jet Urquidez and Chuck Norris. But Hank has been around for a long, long time as an actor and a comedian. In fact, as an actor, he was in the Amityville Horror. He was in Serpico. Hank was also a main character in the television series Car 54, Where Are You? And he's just had an amazing film career. And he, of course, was a professional wrestler. And I'm talking wrestling. I'm talking the sport of wrestling, not wrestling entertainment. Also present was Dan Severn, UFC legend, who's a 3 times Gold Crown winner from the no holds barred era of the UFC. SASHA Mitchell, who was in the kickboxing sequel. SASHA Mitchell was present. Christine Bannon Rodriguez. Now, Christine was a very interesting guest. Christine had a very unique record because she was a world karate champion, which means that she went to the world tournament where she competed against all countries. And Christine competed in fighting, forms, and weapons. Now, keep in mind, it's a privilege for anybody to get a medal in any of those categories, but Christine competed in all 3 categories, and Christine got a gold medal in all 3 categories. And not only did she do it once, but she went back for the very next competition, which took place 2 years later because they happen every other year. And Christine, twice in a row, won gold medals in all 3 competitions. So we have an interview with Christine, incredible martial artist. Ernest the Cat Miller, who you probably know from WCW and WWE wrestling, but Ernest is also a lifelong martial artist, and he has world titles in karate. So we interviewed Ernest the Cat Miller. Gary Alexander, the first officially sanctioned bare knuckle world champion, and also starred in some films along with Michael Dudikoff. So Gary's got an interesting career to speak of as well. We had the boxer Ray Mercer, who we spoke to, who I didn't know this, but Ray is not just a boxer, but Ray is also an MMA fighter, and he was a kickboxer. Shawnee Carter from the UFC, Bellator, King of the Cage. I mean, Shawnee at his table had to have a dozen title belts that he had won throughout his MMA career. Chuck Zito, very interesting guest who we spoke to, a lifelong martial artist, again, who had trained with Bob Wall, Benny the Jet, Chuck Norris. Chuck Zito is also an actor. We will be featuring all of the amazing interviews that we got at this expo. So again, that was the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honors Mega Weekend and Expo. And I would recommend that you take a look at their website, www.hohmega.com, and clear your calendar for last weekend in January of 2018 so that you can attend this incredible event. More details can be found at the website at hohmega.com.
Hi, this is Olympic bronze medalist in judo, Marty Malloy, and you're listening to Martial Arts World Radio.
Dan Severn is a legend to MMA fighters around the world. He is a UFC Hall of Famer, the only Triple Crown champion, and a two-time NWA champion. Today, Dan travels the globe giving seminars, instructing law enforcement officials, and making appearances at various sporting events. Dan was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame during UFC 52. He has an official UFC record of 70 wins, 13 losses, and 7 draws, and a professional MMA record of 101 wins, 19 losses, and 7 draws. Along with being a UFC Hall of Famer, he is also a former UFC Superfight champion. He was the first world-class wrestler to enter the UFC, foreshadowing the period of dominance by wrestlers such as Don Fry in UFC 8 and 9, and Mark Coleman in UFC 10 and 11. Dan entered the UFC in 1994 at UFC 4 Revenge of the Warriors, where he impressed many UFC fans by executing 2 impressive back suplexes on Anthony Macias. He has fought Royce Gracie, Forrest Griffin, and many other fellow UFC legends. I interviewed Dan Severn at the Hall of Honors Mega Weekend in Atlantic City. You'll have to forgive the background noise as it was an exposition and the hall was rather full and loud. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that Dan Severn is a class act, and it was a lot of fun doing this interview.
Dan Severn, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. Thanks for your time today. Joseph, it's great to be here. Dan, the ultimate destination for MMA and martial arts Mega Expo. How many years have you attended this?
I try to think how many years has it been running. I'd say it's got to been running for about 20 or more years. I'd say that I've been here at least 50% of the time.
Good stuff. And of course, Alan Goldberg has done something here that's very unique. It almost feels like as I was saying to SASHA Mitchell, like a high school reunion when everybody gets together here.
No, yeah, you see a lot of the same people from year to year. When you look at the instructors or the, I'll say the guest attractions, the various standout martial artists that may have gone in and been a part of different types of movies, or maybe in the Guinness Book of World Records for breaking boards or whatever have right there. So it is kind of like the who's who of the martial arts world.
Now, the UFC, WWF, all of your journeys and travels, I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride, no doubt. Early days of the UFC, is there something momentous or unique that you might share with me, an experience that stands out?
Well, I would say that to all of your listeners, because we are a very forgetful society anymore, the product that they watch currently, known as MMA, which stands for Mixed Martial Arts, has only been around since probably the mid-2000s, around that 2004, 2005, did it actually be coined that phrase. The predecessor that started back in the 1994 time frame was known as NHB, which stood for No Holds Barred. The vast difference between those two eras of the Ultimate Fighting Championships companies is during the mixed martial arts era, there are approximately 47 to 49 rules now, whereas back in that No Holds Barred era, there were only 2 rules, That being, do not bite your opponent. Rule number 2, no sticking fingers in the eye socket, known as eye gouging. Into the rules, no weight classes, no time periods, bare-knuckled action, and you had the 8-man tournament, where the same 2-hour pay-per-view that still runs to this day, where people face one opponent. Back then in the no-holds-barred era, you had to face and defeat 3 opponents. And I am the only Triple Crown champion from the UFC's no-holds-barred era. And since it's illegal to do, I'm in.
So when we look at that belt over there from the original UFC, I mean, I can only imagine the emotion and the pride that you feel when you take a look at that and you see how MMA has evolved today.
You know, the 2 belts I have represented, one's from the wacky world of professional wrestling, the other one is from the real world of cage fighting. Again, I use it as a broad term because it encompasses both the no-holds-barred era and the mixed martial arts era. Yeah, there's only 2 belts on display right there, but I actually have 2 more belts that are laying in the bags right there. Just not enough room on the table to display the actions. You know, yes, a great deal of pride is involved in that, but also to be one of the pioneers of that industry and to see it through from its no-holds-barred dark ages, as referred to the more modern mixed martial arts version that you have today, and to see the popularity grow in the vastness that it has.
Dan, the early days of the UFC, did you have any idea at that time or suspect it was going to grow into what it was today?
Yes, because of an experiment I did with just a couple of my buddies that were mad dashing. They were going to stop by my place just to drop off a couple things because they had to hurriedly go out the next day. So knowing that I saw them something pull into my driveway, I popped in the UFC VHS tape. And as they come in, I had the volume up extra loud. I was sitting on the couch, and I actually made it come on over because I was pretending to really be engrossed into watching it. And they're like, well, what's this? I go, wow. I said, this is crazy cage fight. That's something I'm toying with the idea of getting involved with. And they're watching this. Well, let's put it this way. They're hurrying us an hour and a half later as I'm watching these 2 guys screaming and yelling, twisting and contorting on my couch here with me. I'm thinking, there's something here. There's distraction. But then I always know that people, for some reason, people are drawn to violent acts of things of that nature. They make with their hand over the face, but they all want to sneak that peek in the process. So there is the attraction there on a multiple of different levels.
Dan, in terms of combat sports, at what age did you actually start taking some kind of professional instruction?
I took a judo class as a freshman in college. I was a very high-level amateur wrestler. I was looking to do anything that would enhance my wrestling ability. Like, for example, I took a nutrition class, so I knew that everything I ate and put in my body was going to make me the ultimate wrestler. So that I took a weightlifting class, so I could actually, even though it was all geared towards football and basketball and all that stuff, I was able to take that same knowledge and create the same type of weightlifting type programs for an amateur wrestler. And then by taking that judo class, you know, I had two instructors. I had an Asian instructor and I had an American instructor. The Asian instructor hated me because I did not conform totally to the judokian way. Now, the American instructor, I basically talked to both. I says, and I told them why I took the class was to add to my amateur wrestling, but also I was fulfilling all of their obligations. But when I stepped on the mat and they would be trying to show all these traditional type of techniques, when it came to live sparring, I was that guy that was already migrating my freestyle wrestling, my Greco-Roman wrestling, my folk style wrestling into this form of judo, and I'm mauling everybody in the class. And the Asian instructor did not like it. Well, the American instructor, he thought it was pretty unique. He came and actually watched some of the home dual meets when I was actually representing Arizona State University, and he actually saw how I was using foot sweeps and things of this nature. I was using my legs like an extra pair of arms. At the end of the season, he goes, well, Dan, now that your season's over, would you like to go and see one of these judo tournaments? And I go, well, sure. And I traveled with this ASU squad down to, I think it was Tucson, Arizona. And when we got there, he goes, well, now that you're here, would you like to actually compete in this? And I go, well, I probably would, but I don't have a judo gi net. Ta-da, he had all. It was a setup. And again, it's just my way of making a long story short that I walked out there as just a wrestler, mauling people, learning more and more technique on the way. So what's my true profession? I jumped in the Ultimate Fighting Championships after having a 5-day training camp of an hour and a half a day. I never trained a single strike. I never trained a single legitimate submission. When I was asked, when I arrived there, what is your martial art? I said, I'd never been asked that question. I just said, looked at them and I go, I'm an American wrestler. They had never heard that reply before. And they're like, well, what exactly does that do? And I look right back at them in the face and I go, I'm not sure. I'm making this up as I go. Just watch my match. And literally, I was flying by the seat of my pants.
Well, you were breaking tradition and applying what was relative to you and what was practical, and it worked. Proof's in the pudding.
The other aspect I'll say is that when I looked at this, I'm a very calculated type person. I would never pursue, say, a kickboxing match, because those are not the skills that I possess. But I kept thinking, when I saw this skinny little guy doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I go, well, of course, I'm talking about Hoist Gracie. I go, well, kind of looks like wrestling in pajamas to me. I figure that if a guy's got to be within arm's distance to punch me, he's got to be within legs distance to kick me. I'll simply span a range. And what they're taught is they throw out and recoil their hands and legs back. When they recoil back, I will simply slide right up to them, and I will clinch them, and I will go, welcome to my world, and you will never see the light of day again. And unless I decide to cut you loose, because I know the reward of being released to you is you're going to kick me, punch me, elbow me, whatever. And I go, I don't like to be hit. So my wrestling skills saw me through very, very well.
Did you surprise yourself in the UFC?
No. I'm not saying that to be over-embellished, but I knew that if I stayed to what my strengths were and try not to be something I was not, I will do just fine, because I was already a very high-caliber wrestler, and it would take a pretty unique, high-caliber person that's going to end up beating me. But if I don't dance your game, no, I'm a tough cat to beat.
How did you relate to Hoist Gracie?
I can't relate to him at all. I mean, he's from Brazil, even though he lives in the States. I'll just simply say that Christmas came early. What I should have did to him 20-some years ago, I didn't. I would still heavily consider coming back out of retirement for one of only a couple people, other people from my vintage. To go against young bucks, no. Hard to say for any professional athlete is to know when it's time to move along. And a lot of them stay in too long, and they are wrecked into retirement, and now they may have physical problems to go along with them instead of having whatever quality of life. Now they're going to have a diminished quality of life.
In terms of the UFC today and Bellator and other fight promotion companies, are you surprised at how they've grown and how they've evolved, or do you think that this was something that was overdue?
No, well, I'll say that I'm surprised that it grew as quickly, because when you think about a sport in a 20-year span, what has done, no other sport has done this. And to rival sports that have been around for 100-plus years, when you look at the numbers that football has done, the numbers that basketball, baseball, the UFC has rivaled those same numbers in just to be sheer attendance-wise for live events, or even in pay-per-views. So that is done something very credible. But then also the fact that you can speak to the pioneers of the sport because they're still alive. A Hoist Gracie is still alive. A Ken Shamrock is still alive. A Dan Severn is still alive.
And then the transition to wrestling.
Are we talking wrestling, or are we talking professional wrestling?
Wrestling, WWF. Obviously an opportunity to do some entertainment, an interesting gig. How did that come around?
Well, I give you some timetables here. I have been an amateur wrestler since 1969. I've been a professional wrestler since the 1992 Olympics, and a cage fighter since 1994. So I'll give you some time frames. So I was a professional wrestler first, and not the cage fighter. But when people saw me go from the UFC and then into WWF, they kept thinking, the words, you're a sellout. I go, really? I go, if you really want to know the truth, the people of professional wrestling ought to be mad, because I was their first profession, and I sold out to be a cage fighter. But they're like, but that's okay. A little catch-22 here right now. So being involved in professional wrestling is something that I thought about early in life. I actually had several promotions contact me to be involved with this, but had I turned pro at that time, I would have lost my amateur competition status, and my amateur wrestling career meant too much to me. So I turned them down, but as of the 1992 Olympics, a new rule came into place that allowed me to be both amateur and professional simultaneously. So I could still make an Olympic team if I wanted to, but I could be a professional wrestler.
And then a wrap-up question, people in your life who are an inspiration to you, who motivated you, people that you looked up to?
I'll just say very few people that will ever fall into that type of category. You know, I do a lot of the things I do, I'll say, is in honor of my own parents for the upbringing and the work ethic that they instilled into me. I think that's probably the best credit I will give is I pay homage to them because they're both gone, and I'm the perfect blend of both of my parents. My father was a quiet man, but a very powerful man, and a man of few words, but by God, those words meant something. So I definitely carry that same tradition, and my mother was that risk taker, fly by the seat of your pants, so I am definitely that blend of both of my parents. So I do that for their honor.
Dan, do you do keynotes, appearances, or seminars?
Well, Joseph, I do a ton of different things. I'm a man of many trades. I teach in the sport of amateur wrestling. Of course, that goes without saying. That's my first love. But then I teach other forms of amateur wrestling, such as freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling. These are what we do on the international scene, Olympic Games, World Championships. But then also since 1994, I've been working with law enforcement. I do especially ground defensive tactics programs, but law enforcement, corrections, air marshals, border patrol, military, and what I was told was I'm still the very first civilian ever to be brought on base for the world's largest private security company by the name of VXL out of Montrose, Virginia. It's my knowledge of physical mechanics. I've been brought in, even just less than a year ago, I was brought into the Sheriff's Department. The first they asked me, the gentleman, I've done several of my ground defensive tactics programs before. He loves the simplicity how I teach, and he goes, my guys get it from you way faster than anybody else. And so as he keeps bringing me back in, he calls me up once out of the blue. He says, "What do you know about cell extractions?" And I kidly say, "Well, you know, I've watched Lockdown a few times on TV." He laughs. He goes, "It doesn't quite happen like that." And I just told him, I says, "Bring me in. Let me see what you guys are doing already. Whether it's, you know," and he goes, "There's 2-man teams, 3-man teams, 4-man teams that go into a cell." I go, "Let me be all parts. Let me be part of the team. So let me watch it first. Let me be part of the team. But then let me be the bad guy to feel what this all feel like." And without a hesitation, I went right from there, seeing what they're doing, and I made it easier yet. And he just shakes his head. He goes, "I don't know how you do it," but he goes, "These are simple things that are easy for us now to teach others." So I take a great deal of pride in what I teach there because I know that what I teach, it's going to save lives. That's for life and death. Because I always say that I have never done any of the above. I'm from the world of competition where I could easily get out of there with a little tap out or tell the referee, "Hey, Mr. Referee, I've had enough fun for tonight. Time for me to get out of here." But law enforcement, military, and things of that nature, they don't have that choice. Their tap out could mean lights out forever. So I take that with I take a great deal of, I'll say pride, but then also what I'm showing that I'm going to give you the best I possibly can. The bad part is, I tell them this afterwards, you guys should be taking a creative writing class because you have to be able to articulate your actions afterwards, especially when it comes to something like law enforcement. That's known as the use of force continuum. If you do this, I'm only able to ratchet up by 1 degree, but you're not a robot. You're a human being, and you have human emotions. And if someone just tried to kill you, and you might have been a little overzealous, and you're trying to put them on down, well, then they throw it as either police brutality or something like this. I go, if you were to take other people, put them in the same role, they would never call it that in the first place. You just saved your bacon. To be at least able to tell you a story. I do a lot of different types of things, but I also work with the local high school where I live. I work with long jumpers, high jumpers, shot put and throwers and discus throwers, because again, the understanding of mechanics, high and low hurdles. Might be hard to believe there's this big goon right here, but I used to run the hurdles as well. For a big guy, people were kind of surprised at my agility.
And once again, Dan, for our listeners, if they're interested in contacting you about making an appearance, how would you like them to contact you?
The very best way is simply just going to the website, dansevern.com, DANSEVERN.com. All my social media is there, and just ways of getting in touch with me are there. And it also shows even more stuff that I do that you may not be aware of. I just haven't quite figured out what I want to be when I grow up. That's all.
Dan Severn, once again, thank you for your time.
Joseph, it's been a pleasure.
This has been an interview with UFC pioneer and legend, Dan the Beast Severn. For those of you listening to Martial Arts World Radio while on your phones, tablets, or laptops, be sure to check out bobwallworldblackbelt.com, the world's foremost martial arts online community. Martial Arts World Radio is distributed worldwide on a network which includes broadcast stations, internet radio stations, podcast platforms, listen-on-demand channels, and social networks. If you'd like to add your station to our network of over 60 affiliates, or if you wish to sponsor the show, reach out to me by email at producer@mawradio.com. SASHA Mitchell is an accomplished martial artist who holds a black belt in Taekwondo and is also a skilled practitioner of Muay Thai. He has been a student of Benny the Jet Urquidez. He was best known as an actor for his television roles as James Beaumont on Dallas and Cody Lambert on the show Step by Step. However, he made his mark in the martial arts world when he had the starring roles in KickBoxer 2, KickBoxer 3, The Art of War, and KickBoxer 4, The Aggressor. He also starred in Gangland, Dickie Roberts, former child star, and St. Elsewhere. I caught up with SASHA Mitchell at the Hall of Honors Mega Weekend in Atlantic City. Now, this was a remote interview that I did from an MP3 microphone, and it was in an open exposition that was full of very loud people. And additionally, I had conducted a lot of interviews, so my voice sounds pretty squeaky at times like Mickey Mouse. Despite that, the interview was well worth it, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
SASHA Mitchell, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. Thanks for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. I love this martial arts convention we do every year in Atlantic City.
We love you, Sasha! We love you!
At what age did you begin Taekwondo?
When I was a kid in high school, we trained in military school and then in the PAL, boxing. And I must have started 12 years old. Yeah.
That's a good age.
I started training with Benny Urquidez. I was 18 years old, Sensei Ben. So that was at the old Jet Center, the original one on Pryor Street. Trained there forever. Then I brought my children over to the other Jet Center that was by Gold's Gym on Laurel, and they trained there with Sensei Majid and Sensei Ben, everybody. The Jet Center is really where I got, my foundation. I did that kickboxing movie, Kickboxer 2, with him, and, I trained primarily with him. And he put me with another trainer for a little while, Shuki Ron, and he learned from Majiro Gym style, the guys in Holland, Thai boxers in Holland, because they're a little bit taller, a little bit longer legs, and so it's kind of a different hip movement, kind of a little bit better for me. But Sensei Benny's always been my sensei.
You're a pretty big guy yourself, so do you tend to work on your speed or your flexibility, or are there certain aspects that when you're training that you try to emphasize?
Speed, because I am big and heavy. And I always liked working on speed better because, like my son was unbelievable and athletic. When he was 2 years old, he would walk around our dinner table and climb up the back of my chair and stand on my shoulders while I was eating. And he's just that way. He was a year and a half. He would climb up fences and climb down fences. But for me, it was always I had to work on everything I did really hard. So speed and coordination really was mine. Power I had, but when I was really young, I worked out every day. I still work out every single day, a couple hours a day in the gym. But, my body was always light. I was always around 190, couldn't get any bigger. And then as I got older, my body kind of slowed down. My metabolism slowed down, and I put on some size, a little bit bigger. So, but I'm still always working on speed.
And did you start adding other martial arts or other systems to your repertoire?
Really just Yukido-kan, that's Benny Akitas style, and then the Majiro Gym style from Thailand. Like, you can see the difference in my styles, like, from one, like, Kickboxer 2 to Kickboxer 3 was more Thai style.
And do you train your ground game at all?
You know, I trained with Jakob Bresler, and he's more Krav Maga. So we train there, but it looks good. You know, when he starts throwing me around, it looks good in the dojo, you know? So we do that. I love Jakob. He's a great guy. And he's been out of the Jet Center for like 25 years. Yeah, he's a really good guy.
Sasha, you had some interesting opportunities as an actor. I believe you started fairly young as well as an actor. Can you tell us about how you were discovered, or did you approach Hollywood?
I was born in L.A., raised there, UCLA. And but no, I was in military school in New York. And I knew a guy that was a photographer, like an Italian guy from Italy. You know, he's like, look, you know, if I take a picture of you and I show it to these agents, you know, if just let me take one picture and give me $100, I'll split it with you. You know, and I was like, no, man. You know, he's like, look, you can make some money. So he took a picture of me. He showed it to an agent. And that guy, that one agent, really just started me doing everything. He's like, go over here and talk to these guys. And so I did my first TV show, like in Spanish. I mean, it was American TV, but I spoke Spanish in it. It was like a love story with Ricky Nelson's daughter, Tracy. Remember? It was like an ABC movie of the week. I got a couple Clio awards doing commercials. It was like one was Is It Love or Is It Memorex? And there was like, there was a whole bunch of commercials I did. And then I started doing TV, and then I got TV shows and movies. They all came about differently. But I was born here, so my family was like from the clothing business, and they weren't really thinking about acting or movies. It took me a long time to even tell my father I was doing movies or acting. Yeah. Forget about it.
And then, of course, you're known very well for your role on Dallas as well. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, that was amazing. They were so sweet, really kind people. Larry Hagman was a wonderful guy to work with, and Patrick Duffy, of course. Yeah, I did 2 shows with him where I played his nephew on Dallas and on Step by Step. So I loved working with Patrick. I loved working with Larry. And Leonard Katzman, the producer, he was a really sweet guy. Really nice people. It's kind of hard, though, because on a drama, you know, there's not really, like, as good of a rhythm as there is with comedy or action. You know, like, we always got a punchline. So in, like, an action movie, there's, like, a certain amount of dialogue before you take a punch. And the same thing with, like, comedy. You know, it's like you got a little bit of dialogue, there's a punchline and a joke. But I remember Dallas was being, like, you know, you say a lot, you talk a lot, but you don't really go anywhere, you know. Yeah, it was funny. But it was a great show.
And then KickBoxer, would you tell us, was there any kind of story or anecdote around the casting of how you got into KickBoxer 2? Because, I mean, that was a sequel to the Van Damme film. Great opportunity.
That was really just a vision from Albert Pune. He came to Sensei Benny Akitas, and he said, you know, I need one of your fighters, and I think Sasha could do it. And it was really Albert Pune. It was his idea, and that was it. I don't know what he saw. Maybe he saw Spike and Bensonhurst. You know, in Spike we were fighting and boxing, and that was a comedy. So maybe he liked I think that was it. I know the vision was Albert. He just decided that's what I was going to do it.
Did you actually have to read for it, or did he just basically recruit you out of the gym with the endorsement of Benny the Jet?
I think it was just through Sensei Ben. Yeah, I think Benny, it was his recommendation, and I think he went and looked at some of the stuff that I had done, so he knew I could act, and I think really that was it. I don't think, maybe I went and read to meet with them and talk with them. No, he came over to my house, and I was working on my trees. I was doing bonsai in the backyard, and he was, I was like, oh, you go inside and sit down and talk formally, because he came over to talk to me. And I was doing the trees. You know, my father was like the first Caucasian Nampukai in America, and the Grand Master of bonsai. And he's got trees like in the National Arboretum in D.C. and in, you know, the Descanso Gardens in California. And our teacher, the National Arboretum in D.C. is named after John Naka, our teacher. And outside, the garden outside is George Yamaguchi's garden. And so I learned from them. I was in Nampukai also, but I was maybe like ninth. You know, he was the first Caucasian. So it was really a big deal. And So when Albert came over to my house, I was in the backyard working on my trees. We spent like maybe 5-6 hours, and I was just wiring and trimming, and then we went over to see Sensei Ben. I think I didn't go in and read. Yeah, but it was like that.
Do you have some favorite martial artists of your own?
Well, Sensei Benny, yeah, Don Wilson. Have you followed Don Wilson? Not just his amazing acting career, but his fighting career. Maurice Smith. I mean, the guy's beat everyone. Yeah. Of course, Petey Cunningham, Bill Wallace, one of my favorite guys in the whole world. Ernesto Oost, oh man, yeah. Of course, I'm a martial arts fan. I've got guys I love. Yeah, do you remember, Stan the Man Longinides? Amazing guy. Yeah, he trained with Shuki. Peter Cunningham, one of my best guys, though. I love him. Yeah. Remember Alex Garcia? Well, boxers, Hector Pena, Hector Lopez. Hector Lopez, amazing boxer. He used to tune up Sensei Ben for his fights. For different reasons, you like martial artists for some of the different things that they do, but yeah.
And then, Sasha, between Kickboxer 2 and 3, do you have a personal favorite or a preference between the two?
They're so different. No, I love them both. Of course, there was so much blood in Kickboxer 2. I like a lot less blood. You know that. Because that was pretty bloody and gory and stuff. And, but I love Kickboxer 2. I was lucky enough to be able to work with Sensei Benny, doing the coordinating, and I worked with him every day. Can you imagine? Like 3 hours a day, every day, just me. And then the other cast members that we had got to work with us at the Jet Center. And that was just like, can you imagine getting paid for staying home at your dojo every day with your sensei? It was like, that was amazing. Kickboxer 3 was a lot of fun. We went to Brazil with my daughters, and I remember my oldest daughter, Pavlina, I got to teach her how to swim in Brazil because they had a million different pools of different varying depths. So I had a really good time in Brazil. And a lot of the fighting and coordinating we did. In Kickboxer 4, we had the Machado brothers. And so that was amazing. Egan Machado and John Machado came, and we got to do the coordinating together with them, and I love those guys. So for every different reason, every little job, there's always beautiful parts to it you love. Yeah.
So, Sasha, our closing question, and I really appreciate your time today. Looking at the Kickboxer movies, perhaps if you throw them on with your kids from time to time and you see that young Sasha Mitchell who's in those movies, if you could go back in time and give him some advice, what would it be?
I don't know. I don't know that I would have done anything really differently. I spent the last, 21 years raising my kids alone. 28 years I've had children, and I think really the one thing in my entire life I'm most proud of is just my babies. And that, they were raised by me, and I put in all the time I could, and that now the kind of people they are is that they love other people. That's what I always told them. Well, look, we're people. There are certain kind of people out there that are things people. And, of course, we have things and we need things, but, we love people, number one. And they're all in different industries where they take care of, like children or, autistic kids. My oldest daughter goes to school with to teach them, how to fit into their school systems. And, I'm just so proud of them. I don't know if I would have done anything different ever in my life. And I was kind of set in my ways even as young, but probably if I was fortunate enough, I would have stayed in school forever. I always thought if I was like a super rich guy, all I would do is go to school. First, learn how to be a doctor, learn how to be a lawyer, learn how to be a physicist, engineer, only just because I love school.
Sasha, thanks again for taking the time, and congratulations on your career. All the best.
Thank you. I was very fortunate.
This has been an interview with martial artist and actor Sasha Mitchell.
Hi, this is Superfight, and you're listening to Martial Arts World Radio.
While I was at the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honors Mega Weekend and Expo in Atlantic City, I bumped into Grandmaster Gary Alexander on the trade show floor. Now, Gary Alexander is an American martial artist, karate fighter, author, actor. He was Black Belt Magazine's co-instructor of the year. He was also an inductee in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. He's known as the first international bare-knuckle contact karate champion. In 1962, Gary Alexander won the first Canadian Karate Championship, sponsored by Master Soroka. On November 24th, 1962, Gary Alexander won the North American Championship, sponsored by Master Oyama, which was held at Madison Square Garden. Both events were bare-knuckle full contact, where the winner was the fighter still standing. He is a member of Black Belt Magazine's Hall of Fame, Action Martial Arts Hall of Fame, the World Karate Union Hall of Fame, and the Australasian Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Gary Alexander is a Marine veteran who served in the Pacific with Weapons Company 1st Battalion Fighting 9th Marines Fleet Marine Force, and he has acted in films and on television, specifically Gideon Oliver with Lou Gossett Jr. for Universal Pictures, and the martial arts film Avenging Force with Michael Dudikoff for Canon Pictures.
Grandmaster Gary Alexander, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio.
Joseph, thanks very much for inviting me.
Gary, were you really the world's first bare-knuckle champion fighter?
Yeah, you want to look at the knuckles? Nobody's going to admit that. I just wrote my autobiography, Trailblazer 1. I'm trying to have a movie made out of it, and yes, I was. Just came out of the Marine Corps, trained up. First event was Matsuyama in Madison Square Garden, and Soroka had his in Canada the week before. We're up there, went up there, came back down here to Madison Square Garden, won there, and there we go. So.
And you did some film work. I know you worked with Michael Dudikoff. You were in, for example, the movie Avenging Force. You were in some other films. Would you tell us a little bit about when Hollywood came calling you as a martial artist?
Well, I'll give you some original stuff. I had a shot at 007 when I was fighting. I was the only champion. At 65, you had a group of guys that come up, okay? And they all palled around. I was a loner. I still am. But anyway, back when I was fighting, I had an interview with United Artists. And just out of the Marine Corps, a fighter, and I had family obligations. They said, go home, take pictures, come back in. Pictures in a bathing suit, pictures lifting weights. I figured, this is queer. I'm a fighter. I don't do this. I never went back. But that took care of that. But with Dudikoff, that was Avenging Force. That was in Canon Films. And I've done a lot of work walking around Hollywood looking for work. And one day they gave me a shot with him, and I had some fun with that. And then Lou Gossett Jr., I did a show with him. It was made for TV, called Gideon Oliver. I trained as a stunt fighter. I did some casting for them. I actually did the role of fighting in the ring for him, like that. He's a great guy, and had a lot of fun with that, too. I did a film up in Las Vegas, the mountains, for Special Forces, showing some of the troops up there how to handle the fighting in that environment. Not that I needed to, but they wanted me to do that, and they're great people. And they went up there, and I had to make it look so that they didn't look bad, and I didn't look bad. And that was 8,000 feet up in the air. I just did one last year called Awakened out in Southampton, Long Island. And I was out there as the bodyguard. I did a cameo appearance and whatever. At this point in time, if they want to see me in the movies, they got to stuff me and put me on stage. But I am trying to get a film company to make my film. I just wrote my autobiography and memoirs called Trailblazer 1. Okay? And it goes back. It's all about me. That's what it's about. Okay? But it goes back and covers everything that happened in the martial arts for the last 50, 60 years. Since I'm only 21. But that's it. But I am looking for investors. I'm looking for film companies. And that's my big quest right now.
Gary, we really look forward to seeing the movie when it comes out. I'm sure it'll be a success. And I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much. You'll probably have Bugs Bunny do my part.
All the best,
Joseph.
Likewise.
Good luck.
That was a brief conversation with Grandmaster Gary Alexander. Our last interview for this episode, which is from the Action Martial Arts Honors Hall of Fame Expo and Mega Weekend, is with Mr. Chuck Zito. Chuck Zito is an American actor, amateur boxer, martial artist, celebrity bodyguard, stuntman. a former boxing trainer, and he was the former president of the New York chapter of the Hells Angels. He was frequently featured on Howard Stern, and he's often interviewed for his opinion on the UFC and professional boxing. He's been in films such as Carlito's Way, Rise to Power, Homefront, Reach Me, and The Juror. He was a regular on the television series Oz, Entourage, and also Sons of Anarchy.
Chuck Zito, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
We appreciate your time today. Would you please tell us about training with Renzo Gracie?
Well, Renzo's one of the best, man. He's great. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is no better, man.
And as I understand it, you also trained with Bob Wall.
I've trained Bob Wall, Chuck Norris, Bill Super Wallace, a lot of guys.
You like the diversity of mixed martial arts?
You know what, I've been boxing since I was 5 years old. I had my first ring fight at 12 because my father was a professional boxer, so I started boxing first. Then, of course, after seeing Bruce Lee and the Green Hornet, I wanted to become a martial artist. And I enrolled in Aaron Banks' karate dojo in New York City and started taking white crane, tiger claw, kung fu. And then I went out to Ishido Karate, Shikiri Jiu-Jitsu, Kumite Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu, and I trained with Renzo Gracie in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know, I've trained 8 different styles of martial arts, so I mix everything together. You know, so it's my own system, which is a street survival system.
Now, Bob Wall recommended I asked you about your father, who was a professional boxer. Could you tell us a few things about him?
Yeah, my father was a professional boxer in the 30s and the 40s. He was a welterweight, lightweight welterweight back in the day. His name was Al LaBarbera. And his cousin was the flyweight champion of the world, Fidel LaBarbera. And my father fought for 13 years, had 228 fights in that time. So he was a great fighter. He was supposed to fight Marty Servo for the welterweight championship, and then he got drafted in World War II. Went to war for 3 years, and came out, and a few more fights, and then retired.
Distinguished career and a lot of life experience there.
Yes, yes. So I learned from him, and he taught me how to box at an early age. And I've been doing martial arts for over 40 years now.
So Chuck, based on your experience, between what you see happening in the octagon, in the cage, in the dojo, what would really work well in the street?
Well, I always try to do a traditional jiu-jitsu, not the grappling, because a lot of thing locks, his eye pokes, his elbows, everything. It's but of course, training with Zito now, when you grab somebody, that's when you take them down. So it's awesome. I mean, you just combine everything, and that's what I've done all through the years, the last 40 years, combine all my 8 styles together.
Do you have a favorite martial artist or fighter who you looked upon as an inspiration?
I mean, well, come on, back, of course, Bruce Lee. You know, he was the Muhammad Ali of the martial arts back then, and of course, you know, guys like Bill Super Wallace and Bob Wall and Chuck Norris, and you grew up with these guys, and of course later on Don Dragon Wilson and guys, and of course now starting in 1993 the mixed martial arts, the MMA and the UFC. So there's a lot of great fighters, out there that I look up to.
Is there a particular fighter in the UFC that you favor over others?
You know what, there's a lot of dear friends of mine, but Randy Couture was a great fighter. He was 6 times, you know, a UFC champion. You got to give him credit for that, man. And there's great guys. I mean, you know, Chuck Liddell and Matt Hughes, and you know, guys like that, and you know, George St. Pierre, and now who's the badass now is Conor McGregor, man. You know, so he's the up-and-coming guy.
So you did follow George St. Pierre's career?
Oh, absolutely. I followed everybody's career. I was at UFC, you know, UFC 1, Denver, Colorado, 1993. You know, Bill Super Wallace was the commentator, along with Kathy Long and Jim Brown. So I've been following from day one. And I try to go to a lot of them. You know, if I'm around in town, I've been going to a lot of them. Last week I went to Bellator fight with Ortiz, you know, Tito Ortiz and Charles Sonnen. So I was over there. And it was great because there was so many. There had to be 25 fighters in the audience. 25 fighters, starting from the, Don Fry to Hoist Gracie, who started it all.
That's great.
Yeah, Hoist Gracie is the godfather of the octagon, man. You know, they started it.
I noticed that you still get asked to do a lot of interviews for your opinion on the UFC. Still getting a lot of calls?
Sure. I do a lot of things. And like I said, I try and go to most of the fights. And whether it's UFC or any mixed martial arts or boxing, I try to attend a bunch of them. So.
A wrap-up question for you, and I appreciate your time, Chuck. Looking over your repertoire of your films, all the movies that you've done, do you have a favorite production that you were involved in?
You know what? I always my first TV series was Oz, the HBO series Oz. I was on it for 5 years, and that was always a great experience. Of course, my most recent series was Sons of Anarchy. I did a big movie with Jason Statham a couple of years ago called Homefront, and I'm going to start one myself soon that I wrote, that I'm producing, starring, and directing, called Street Justice. And we're going to start that in June in New York.
Are you an author as well?
Yes, I wrote my own book. Of course, it was called Street Justice also. I wrote my book, and I do author. I was host on Howard Stern's 101 for 6 years. So I do a lot of things. I have a lot of hats.
You wear a lot of hats. Chuck, do you have a website that we can direct our listeners to if they're interested in checking you out?
Yeah, chuckzito.com. I mean, I'm totally off social media now for the last couple of years. So I'm not on Facebook or any of that stuff, but I still have a website.
Very good. Actually, I lied. I have one more question, Chuck. Any charitable endeavors or advocations or causes that you like to support?
I support them all, man. I always do a lot of things. My niece had, brain cancer when she was 7 years old, so I do the St. Jude's a lot. But I do the Wounded Warriors, anybody that came home who was defending our country. I always go to their things when I can. So things like that I attend.
Chuck, thank you so much for joining me today and for talking to us here at Alan Goldberg's Expo.
Hey, thank you for asking. We're having a great time at Alan's, Martial Arts Hall of Fame here.
That was a brief Q&A with Chuck Zito.
Hi, I'm Don the Dragon Wilson, and you're listening to Joseph Clark at Martial Arts World Radio.
Be sure to check us out at www.mawradio.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube by following Martial Arts World Radio. I'm Joseph Clark. Thank you for joining us.